Ask Tom on Home Show.
Mark from Houston has a question about a rusty door.
It's on his crawl space, Tom. That's Mark writes to us, my crawl space doors are rusting badly, and I'd like to replace them with louvered access panels. Doesn't that sound fancy? The frame is built into the brick opening. I'm wondering if I can sand down the rusted area and paint it with Rust-Oleum, or have them powder. It says power coat. I think it's powder coated, and put a screen over it. What should I do? What's your advice?
Okay, first off, let's go with a powder coating because I probably dismiss that pretty quick. To do a powder coating is fine, and what you'll do is you'll send it into a shop. They will sandblast it as opposed to sanding it. Sandblast it, and they'll put it through a powder coating process, which is a heated paint curing process. So if you want to do that, that's the ultimate right there. But that means all you have to do is remove the parts or buy the parts if it's not powder coated and send it to a powder coating shop. They'll do it all, and then if you just assemble it in place, it's fine. Easy, no problem, more expensive, and it has a lot more parts and pieces to put together as far as assembling it and putting and sending it over, or disassembling it, sending it over, and then assembling it back. Now you say if you want to do it in place, can you just sand it? I wouldn't sand it. I would wire brush it. You can get a wire brush on the end of a grinder, and you can wire brush all the heavy rust off and get it as best you can, and then you can wipe it down with an acid, and the easiest one to wipe it down with is a white vinegar. Wipe it all down, let it dry. And if you want to paint it in place and you got most of the rust off, and you will with the brush and the vinegar, then what you would do is prime it first using a rusty metal primer. And it comes with, like Rust-Oleum makes one, and you prime it, and then you go ahead and you spray paint it, or you paint it with a brush with a metal paint. And Rust-Oleum would be a good example. They make a great line of metal paints. I use them all the time. And there you go. You do it in place. So those are your two options. Send it out or do it in place. Don't sand, wire brush, and use a white vinegar before you use a rusty metal primer before you paint it.
What about the idea? I mean, he's talking about louvered on there, or trying to get some ventilation through there. Is that going to have any impact at all on how much rust he's seeing, Tom?
It probably depends where it is, how much humidity, what kind of metal it is. A lot of it has to do with, has it been maintained? Do you paint it regularly? If it's been painted, or it could have been there for 25 years for all I know, and it's just naturally is going to rust. Metal will actually get a coating of rust on there. It's a natural way for metal to protect itself. If you go around the Houston area, since we live there and this is where the show is, and you go under some of these overpasses, you'll see the giant I-beams just red with rust. They do that on purpose. That steel is meant to rust because that rust becomes a protective coating. It's ugly, so people don't like to look at it, but it's actually a very economical way of preserving the steel for many, many years. So steel will naturally do that if it's carbon steel. So don't expect it not to. That's why when you see red iron, I-beams, and other types of red iron products put together to make a metal building, Mueller Steel Building, a certified Home Show Pro of ours, uses a lot of red iron. All a red iron is carbon steel that's been sandblasted or it's been wire brushed down, and then they put a red primer on there, a primer coat to keep it from rusting, so it looks good and it stays clean when you touch it, when you rub up against it or something. So rust is natural, and you got to keep a coating on there, just like you would on a stained deck or a painted wood. It will eventually wear off, and you got to keep it maintained.
You want to maintain the right answers in your life? Click on the Ask Tom button right there at HomeShowRadio.com. Tom will answer your questions just like he did that. And if you send pictures, it helps us do a better job, and that's what we do. We do a new one of these every day, by the way. We post them on our YouTube channel, Home Show Radio YouTube, and of course at HomeShowRadio.com.